Colossians 3:23. Whatever you do, work as if you're working for the Lord, not for man. I don't think that verse really ever settled in until the last couple of weeks. Growing up, I didn't have a Christian home. My father has been married 4 times. That's 3 divorces, 1 lost mother, 4 half-siblings, and a whole lot of tears. You know, I didn't really have a strong foundation of who God was growing up. I had no concept of a heavenly Father, and I certainly didn't have a concept of what true love was. After my folks got divorced when I was young, I found refuge in baseball, enough to where it carried me all the way to play at Division I HBU, to play against the likes of TCU and Texas A&M, and it was a blessing. But growing up really without true love was hard. It drove me into areas my freshman year in college of anger. It drove me into areas of pornography. It drove me into areas of hatred and drug use. And it drove me into areas that I didn't think I could come back from. But there was a string of events that actually led me on this story that was truly remarkable. My freshman year, I moved to Dallas and I played junior college baseball, and I didn't really know what was going to happen. I worked at LA Fitness as an operations manager, and during my time there I actually met a woman who did she was one of the fitness counselors, and she invited me to church. It had been over 10 years since I had been to any church, and that's exactly what it was to me. It was a building made out of brick with a whole lot of people who would just sit in there talking about this God film. I had no concept of who he was or who his son Jesus Christ was. So she reintroduced me to the body, and for that, Brittany Buchanan, I'm thankful. From that point on, I really felt like God working in my life. There was times where I would go to parties and I would leave, and when I would leave, there would be cops that would show up 20 minutes later. That happened on multiple occasions. Let me tell you, there's a difference between coincidence and divine intervention. So moving on from there, had a great year, but I didn't want to go back to school there. I wanted to play at a higher level. I knew I could play better baseball. I knew I could play with better players. And so I looked around, emailed every school, could not find the one, until my buddy, Chase Hernandez, said, you know, I just got a scholarship to play at HBU, Houston Baptist University. And I said, what is that? I've never even heard of this school. Fast forward, I'm pitching for him. 3 years, great time. But while I was there, something tremendous happened. I met a woman. Her name was Jolie, and what she did was she taught me and she showed me what it meant to be a believer, to be a Christian, to serve others. And we became good friends. And not only did we become good friends, but she actually became my wife. She reintroduced me to the body. And I went to church that first night in September. And How He Loves Us by David Crowder, they played during worship. And I broke down and I cried. Capital C, capital R-I-E-D. I cried like a little baby. Just sitting there, hands clutched, head in between my knees. And I just felt the overwhelming sensation that I can't do this anymore. I can't live a lie. I can't live a life where I go inside my room every night and I get in front of the computer and I look at things that I shouldn't look at. And I just can't do it anymore. So right then, on my knees at Houston's First Baptist Church, I said, Lord, I accept you. And from then it was just a roller coaster forward. A couple months later, I met David Moss, and he said, you know, I'm doing this ministry out in this land of Croatia. I'd like for you to come. So I prayed, and I went, and my life has never been the same since. Jolie and I got married 9 months ago. I've been to Croatia 3 times, and I have grown ever since. I've grown from not understanding who God was to understanding that not only is He my Heavenly Father, but He's my shepherd, and that He guides me. And I realized that grace is not just a 5-letter word, but it's a lifestyle. And I've learned that salvation doesn't come like a light bulb. It doesn't turn on and off. it is something that lasts forever. And no matter what happens, you're on an escalator, you're always moving up. And I've learned that love isn't just a ring on the finger, but it's also a sense of being. And it's eternal. And that love that Christ felt is something that has just evolved with my time at His print. When I first joined, I had just this feeling of wanting to go and do a mission trip. And while I was there, I met guys like Martin, and I met guys like Mario and Elvis. I met guys like Mahaj and Rocky. And these are guys that have become my good friends. These are guys that have showed me that you don't need a lot to live a lot. And today, that communication, that friendship still spawns. What His print has done in my life is show me that when you put a body of believers together, anything is possible. But most importantly, when you put Christ in the middle of things, anything is possible. We started off my first year doing baseball camps. Steph and I went and did some street ministry. And then in the 3 years since, we've gone and we've cared for the orphans, we've cared for the elderly. We've built a stage, we've had a Fields of Faith, we've had evangelistic teams just come and share the word. We've, this past year, went to an unreached people group, the Gypsy Village, just outside the city of Seaside, and we shared with them what love is through action. And I never thought I would be here. I never thought 4 years ago, when I was sitting in high school classroom, that I would be sitting in this chair talking about how much I love Jesus. Because that's what Jesus does, is He changes you. Not because He has to, because He wants to. Because of this divine plan that God had. And I'm just so thankful for everything that He's done in my life, and from the brokenness that He turned me to being a brand new creation, from being a broken toy to being a brand new toy shining in the box. And so just thank Him, and I just encourage everyone, like it says, Paul's letter to the Colossians, that whatever you do, you work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not for men. Something I didn't do when I first became a believer, but something I'm doing now. My name is Dalton, and my step is leaving His print.
How great is our God?